I like to say that business to me, I think of it a lot like a sport, What did I like playing sports? It was the people that I played it with, the trials, the tribulations, going through it together. And, whether we won or lost, to me, like I'm there to compete and I am there to win. But the process, doing this with people that I want to be in business with, that's what success means for me. I'll be honest, I don't work that much, Devin. Like, it seems like we're doing a lot, but it's because I've aligned myself with right partners and with this framework so that I'm not trying to build 3 businesses at once, but my time and energy spent on them is very limited. Because, again, as just humans in general, we're wired towards more. And that's not a bad thing. I'm not saying that you can't have more. What I am saying is, if you don't find a way to cap your financial aspirations, it'll never be enough.
Welcome to Entree Real Estate, where we turn the complexities of real estate into clear, actionable steps for building generational wealth. I've invested into different types of real estate all over the United States, and I run a thriving real estate fund. Join me as we document the entrepreneurial journey of scaling businesses and transforming the lives of tens of thousands of people around the world. Let's turn your real estate dreams into reality. Buckle up, because this is the start of something truly incredible. My name is Devin Robinson, and welcome to Entree Real Estate.
What's up, everybody? Today, I'm so excited. I can't tell you how excited I am to be talking to my good friend, Paul Sparks. Let's get it. So Paul is, just to even do a little intro, Paul is, if I can be like straight up honest, just real quick and a little bit vulnerable, Paul is in one of my masterminds, Collective Genius, and I can remember one of the most pivotal moments, mindset shifts for me. I sat in a circle with Paul, and I looked around that circle, and previously I had thought, man, I don't feel like I belong, or man, I'm so limited by what I believe is possible. And in this moment, I sat in a circle with Paul, and Paul has a lot going on, and he's doing such big things. And then I sat in a circle with him and 2 other people, and in that circle, I felt like I could almost like mentally feel the ceiling to the dreams that I believe are possible begin to raise to what I could ever imagine. And then the floor to my limiting beliefs raise, because I was surrounded by guys who were doing things much bigger than I ever thought was possible. And at the same time, giving, serving at an extremely high level and making me feel like I belong. And so Paul probably doesn't even know that, but Paul has an incredible impact on me and how mentally I have moved forward, because I've said those exact words multiple times in different contexts because it's impacted me so much. And Paul is one of the reasons why, is one of the big reasons why I've been impacted in such a big mental space, is just because of who he is, what he's doing, how he's continuing to push the status quo of what's possible and what can be done, pushing towards his convictions and what he believes can be done, and in pursuing that, not because of the money that comes along with it or what the possibility of people knowing who he is, but because of the satisfaction of him achieving what he wants and desires out of life, and the person he wants to be, and the way he wants to impact the world. And it's been incredibly encouraging for me to be around him and to be encouraged by him and to just be friends with him. And so I'm excited to have you on the podcast today, Paul. I could have said a bunch of stuff about what you're doing, but really, I really wanted to share the impact that you've had on my life. And so that's how I want to preface your intro. And so thanks for being here, man.
Hey, man, thanks for having me. And iron sharpens iron. I feel the same. So thank you for saying that. It means a lot.
You're incredible, man. So, Paul, I guess because I didn't intro what you do, I'd love for even just the people to hear a little bit about who you are and what you do and what you, and we'll get into like a lot of the conversation from there, and to be a little bit natural, but I'd love for the people to hear kind of who you are and what you do in your context, because I know you do a lot, and so we're going to dive into a good amount of it.
Sure, yeah. I'll tell you a little bit about what it looks like right now. So I'm here in Denver, Colorado. I have a part of our business where we do construction, we do renovations for really other homeowners. It's a service-based business. Homeowners, investors, things like that. I'm a recovering wholesaler, as I like to say. I wholesaled for a long time. I've got 3 fix and flips I'm doing right now. I've got some townhomes I'm developing. I spend a good bit of time raising capital, and then I also run a community with close to 100 investors across the country, helping them implement a lot of tools for reliability into their business, how to get closer to the things that they want in life. So yeah, that's what my business sort of looks like at the moment.
That's cool, man. Now it's a lot. Like what you're doing is a whole lot. And I just like to dive right in. Like, and I like to dive right in. And it's not going to be very surface level. What does your wife think about all you do, and how do you manage that relationship with being so? I mean, with having so much, because it sounds like you do probably three main things, four main things. Maybe you have like a wholesale company, and then you probably have a construction company. And then you have a fund type thing where you're raising capital for. Then it sounds like you have a community that you're helping. So, and then you have a wife and a dog. And so, like, what do all of these things look like for you, man?
Sure.
Right? You have a dog, right?
I do, yeah.
That's what I thought. I remember. Okay, yeah.
He doesn't care as much about what I do, but my wife certainly does.
Yeah.
That's a really interesting question to start off with, because that has been a huge part of my growth as just a man, a husband, has been learning how to reconcile with the things that actually matter to me. Business is a tool to help me get closer to the life that I want to live. And so keeping the main thing is something that I have to make sure I'm intentional about. And we got married 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago. And when we got married, I had really only been in real estate I'm only 3 years in really to this whole real estate full-time journey here. So it's, for those who are newer to real estate, keep in mind, like you can accomplish a lot in 3 years. There are trade-offs to how much money or to how much work that you put in. And I definitely experienced that. So we got married in August of 2021, and we had a good bit of like initial success, I would say, with the business. And so I essentially said, hey, my wife's name is Eliza. Eliza, you should consider leaving that job that you don't like anymore and go full-time into real estate. So she left at the end of that year and went out and got her real estate license. And we learned a lot about marriage, learning how to work with each other for the first year. And in fact, we got to a point where I think we just realized like we're very different in the way that we approach life and business. And so, yeah, I mean, there's not a right or wrong way to do this. First of all, you can work with your spouse. I found that it wasn't a great idea because it was really affecting our relationship. I would walk in and try to teach your wife how to do sales. That doesn't go over very well.
Yeah.
All I've done ever since I was 23 years old was sell. That's literally all I've ever done. That's the only thing I'm very good at. And you think that she wants to hear your advice and your recommendations on how to sell more, but she really doesn't. She wants you to be her husband. And again, some people can work with their spouse. That just wasn't a good fit for us. And so she actually just maybe it's like a month and a half ago, finally went and joined a different brokerage that was geared towards, all women. The hard part was I had a lot of deals that she would list for us. And, but she was working kind of on an island. I think I don't mind working on an island. I don't have a lot of people that work for me. It's a very small team, and that's intentional, but she needs a lot of, I shouldn't say need, but just enjoys and prefers working with people. And, so we found that actually our life got a lot better when we just stopped working with each other. Now, back to your original question, which is like, how do you handle the workload, right? When it comes to relationships, other relationships, it's not just my wife and I's relationship that matters to me. There's a lot of other people as well that you got to make sure you spend time with. And, you mentioned that I do a lot of stuff. Well, there's a really critical framework that you've heard me talk about before that allows me to do all this stuff. And it's what we call the barbell framework. And so I think of it again as like, picture a barbell. Mm-hmm. You load weight on one side or the other, nothing in the middle, ideally, because it'd be odd to see weight in the middle of a bar. So really what realized for a couple years was like, I had 3 businesses that I was trying to build all at the same time. And, you know, it goes back to Gary Keller's The One Thing. You chase all these different things and it's hard to get anywhere. So what I did is I took my wholesaling business and completely got rid of it. We don't do any direct to seller, and we haven't in over a year.
Wow.
I took that business and I converted it into a construction business. I gave 70% of that business away, Devin. I have a partner who owns 70% of that business. It's his business. He runs it. I'm there for support, moving sales opportunities to him. I do a lot of networking. My thing is relationships, right? And so I found that instead of me trying to be the owner of all these businesses, what I needed to do was, what's the one thing I'm focusing on? So I took that wholesaling business and we turned it into a construction business where we do kitchens, basements, bathrooms for other homeowners and investors. And my time spent on that business is like maybe an hour a week. I review the pipeline with my manager, and, you know, it's not a home run play, but I get my nice little $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 check every single month. It's highly consistent, highly reliable, and I don't spend a lot of time on it. I have a bunch of rental properties that do the same thing. Don't spend a lot of time on that. What I have on the other side of the barbell is what I call asymmetric bets, big upside plays, where I put my capital raising in my development. Now, right now, I'm currently building 18 townhomes here in Denver. It's a $10 million total project. I raised about $3 million for that project. I have 2 partners on it, and my role's done. My role is to raise the capital. You know, I'm going to make a third of that deal. It's not my responsibility to show up, make sure that the project's getting done. These guys have built hundreds of townhomes for the last 2 decades. That's their lane. My lane was to put the deal together, raise the capital, and help sell it on the backside. So that side of things, I spend very little time as well. We're probably talking maybe 2 or 3 hours a week. And a lot of it is because I want to learn that side of the business, but it's not an obligation. It's more of like, I get to learn and I get to play. Math.
You could essentially be done forever for the rest of it if you wanted to be.
I could, right? And so the one thing that's in the middle of my bar that I'm working on right now to make reliable is Whale Club. It's this community that I run. It's the 100 investors, and we're continuing to grow, that I'm spending time building that community, because what I found is relationships are my number one currency. When I optimize for increasing the quality of the relationships in my life, we get more deals for our construction business. We get more private lenders. We get more people bringing us opportunities. So by doing this one thing, it becomes a massive lever for the other areas of my business. So I'll be honest, I don't work that much, Devin. Like, it seems like we're doing a lot, but it's because I've aligned myself with right partners and with this framework so that I'm not trying to build 3 businesses at once. I've still got, ownership, and I get, revenue and income from these different businesses, but my time and energy spent on them is very limited.
Nice. I love this. So what I love about what you do and what you've created a lot of the ability to continue to pursue what you want to pursue. And so in that, I actually want to take it back to the very first sentence you gave in the very first sentence you said in answering my initial question was, you want to keep the main thing the main thing. So for you, you've done a lot of these things that allow you to structure your life how you want it to be structured. And I'm sure it structures whatever your version of success you want it to be, which I hear you talk about often. What's the main thing for you then? Whether that be in your marriage, because that's kind of how it started, or if that is the what is if the main thing is the why in which you do all of these things that have the free time, and then what you spend that free time on. I don't know, but you said keep the main thing the main thing. What is that main thing for you?
One word: relationships. This business, it's my opinion that this business is about relationships, period. End of discussion. That happens to be what I'm best at. My career before I got into real estate was sales, and I was selling to some of the largest companies in the world, United Airlines, Amazon, Walmart. We were doing 5, 10, 15, $20 million deals with some of the largest companies in the world. And what I'll tell you is that people work with people that they like.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. And what I found was when I look back at how I was originally building my businesses, it was highly transactional, right? A wholesaling business. And again, this is not right or wrong. Sometimes I can come across as if I'm saying that there's a right or wrong way to do real estate. There's an infinite number of ways to do it.
Yep.
What I found was that I wasn't playing towards my strengths. You are an excellent operator. Anytime you send me a spreadsheet, I'm like, geez, man, this guy is dialed. Like, Devin, I don't use a CRM.
Sheesh, I don't even know how.
You know where my CRM is? Right here, dude. Because if your name, if I can't, this business is about relationships for me. And so what I found is that takes time, and it's the game that I want to play. You know, I can optimize for getting in rooms with people who challenge me. I can optimize for spending time with friends, family, colleagues, people who share my core values and my outlook on life. And when I optimize for relationships and I build businesses around me just staying doing what I'm good at doing, which is building these relationships, it leads to more money. It leads to a bigger impact and influence on people's lives. Time just flies by. I like to say that business to me, I think of it a lot like a sport, you know? What did I like playing sports? It was the people that I played it with, you know? The trials, the tribulations, going through it together. And, you know, whether we won or lost, to me, like I'm there to compete and I am there to win. But the process, doing this with people that I want to be in business with, that's what success means for me. And so I've just optimized for that. I had to get rid of a lot of the stuff that got me further away from that. So the main thing is, how do I increase the quality of my relationships in my life? And it leads to success in other areas like financial success and, you know, on and on.
I like that you circled back, because I was going to say, okay, cool, Paul, relationships. That's great. For you personally, man, do you have like a BHAG or like the impact? Because one thing I do know about you, and I love this because I see these shirts. I actually just recently started seeing all these shirts, right? The closer over more. The main thing, if the main thing is relationships for you, relationships sounds like a conduit that gets you closer to a final goal. Like what's the purpose of those relationships, if that makes sense? And so the podcast is Entree Real Estate. We talk about real estate, but there's an entrepreneurial journey that is like fiercely emotional and spiritual in those type of things that I almost like to dive into more than I like to dive into the real estate side of things, because none of that, the real estate doesn't happen unless those other parts are addressed and healthy. And so for you, man, like what is that? What do the relationships get you closer to?
Good question.
If I'm using the context of closer over more correctly.
Yeah, great question. I'm going to say some stuff that is highly counterintuitive, and a lot of people may not agree with me. Okay, so this is true for me, may not be true for you.
Perfect.
This is not.
I love that.
This is not fact or truth. This is just what I've observed to be true for me in my situation. All right. So in fact, I'm sitting here looking at it right now. It's a book right here called Finite and Infinite Games.
Cool. So
I think we use this phrase, Devin, we call the solvable problem. I'm sure you've heard me talk about that. You're familiar with Tom Kroll, I assume.
No, not the name, but his concepts.
So my what I learned from this finite and infinite game concept is that there is a tendency in entrepreneurship. So if I asked you, I said, how much money do you want to make? Most people will say, I don't know, as much money as I can. How much money can I make is the question. Well, the problem with that is that it's a problem undefined. There is no winning that game because you're constantly going to be chasing more and more and more. What I decided for myself is finances, money, is not a game that I want to infinitely play. I want to create a game that can be won. In order to do that, I've got to define what winning looks like. So from a financial perspective, I've created this solvable problem. And that's really what we help real estate investors do, is to define what does winning look like so that we can go out and win that game. There is a clear win or loss, and we can measure whether we're getting closer or not. Because again, as just humans in general, we're wired towards more. And that's not a bad thing. I'm not saying that you can't have more. What I am saying is, if you don't find a way to cap your financial aspirations, it'll never be enough. So we help people create a winnable financial game, because that is a very finite game. The point of a finite game is a winner and a loser. I intend to win that game. It may take me some time. I'm on a great path to get there. But there's a big difference between that and a finite game, or an infinite game. An infinite game, the point of an infinite game is not to win or lose. It's to continue playing, right? How can you win being a father? How can you win the game of being a husband? You don't win. The point of it is not to win or lose. It's to continue playing and getting better at it over time, you know? So I choose to align my financial goals with a winnable game. And what closer to me means is being able to play business, because I love playing business, man.
Yeah.
It's fun for me. Like, I just like to compete. I like to do it with people who challenge me. That's not a game that I'm ever going to win. It's a game that's all I want to do is keep playing it at a higher level. So you sort of ask me, like, what's your BHAG? I don't have one, because what I found is I've got a winnable, solvable problem. And the point is to be surprised with my infinite game. The point is not, when you're playing a finite game, surprise is detrimental to that game. You don't want to run into surprises. But when you're playing an infinite game and you're like, hey, this deal went really bad, I'm looking at it as like, wow, that's really interesting. I'm curious about it. I'm surprised, and it's adding to the quality of the game. So again, what I think of, man, is it's not a game to be won or lost. It's a game to keep playing. I want to see how good we can get at life and business. How much impact can I make on the quality of my relationships? I also found that by defining too far in advance what I think it needs to be is very limiting, because you and I are still fairly new in our journey in this. There's so many things that we don't know that we don't know. You know, I was on a conversation yesterday with someone. We were talking about a $25 million industrial deal. And it's like, how could I have known that that conversation was going to come up even a week ago? So the point of that game is to be surprised. It's to play business like a sport. And the point is not to win. It's just to keep playing. And again, I realize that's a little counterintuitive to what the books say and what the gurus teach, but that's my outlook and that's my approach.
No, it's not counterintuitive. I actually really like it because like, so I have a BHAG, right? But like, my BHAG should be accomplished by 2049. So I'm like, okay, then what's next, right? So you have this idea of what's next. And the one thing that I'm constantly thinking about, right? People think about money along the way. My BHAG has like nothing to do about money. It's about the impact I want to make in the world. And the thing that I'm constantly reminded of in that, because it's not money, like it's not a monetary gain that I'm trying to have, I think like the money just becomes a byproduct of that. And it comes as I pursue like what I am passionate about. And so I love that, because like, I'm not surprised either way, as long as I'm continuing to pursue what I feel like either my life's work is or what I'm absolutely passionate about. And so I love the fact that because it is an infinite game, the surprise is not a detriment to the advancement of what you're pursuing. And so, man, I love the concept there. And I love exactly what you're looking at, because I tell people all the time, like, I don't really care how much I make, because I know whatever it is becomes a byproduct of what I'm chasing. And I love the chase. Love the chase.
Well, and I'll add one thing to that too, Devin, is I learned this from one of my mentors, and he says, he's got a phrase, and I'll break this down quickly. He says, repetition leads to intensity, leads to purpose. And I think what is talked about a lot, you know, I'm going to disagree with Simon Sinek. Start with why. I'm going to disagree respectfully. Let me tell you why. That, in my opinion, is a fairly anxiety-inducing statement. Start with why. What's your purpose? And the guy who I'm talking about who gave me this advice, he was the senior advisor to Bill Gates for 10 years in the
He knows a thing or two, I guess.
He knows a thing or two, right? Where I think people get caught up is they want to define their purpose first, then go out and do the reps. And he's saying you got to invert that.
Yeah.
The thing is you may not know what your purpose is until you go out and actually engage, right? So I'm busy right now doing the reps and keeping the loop open because I know that making a massive impact is something that I was put on this earth to do. But I don't know exactly what it is yet because I haven't done the reps long enough to lead to the intensity that's necessary to then reveal what that ultimate purpose is. And so I'm not defining it too far in advance. I'm going out and doing the reps, which in my mind is building value in the relationships that I have, right? And increasing the reach that I have, trying to attract those people who see it the same way. And I'm trusting in the process that doing the reps will lead to intensity, which will then reveal the purpose. That's why I disagree with start with why. I do think that concept has probably helped a ton of people. It was something that I found to be like, well, I don't know what my purpose is just yet. How could I? I'm 33 years old. Like, I got a lot of life to live, and I'm just going to go out and I'm going to do the reps. I'm going to do the things day in, day out that I know are going to lead to opportunities and intensity, which is then going to reveal this ultimate purpose.
Yeah, and I agree, man. I agree because like when you try to start with why and you don't know what your why is, I think you can become paralyzed and never actually take action, and then you don't do the thing because you don't know what your why is. But I think ultimately continuing to learn and just take action may actually develop a passion and a why for what you do and why you do it.
Right.
Very cool, man. Okay, hey, we're actually going to take a little pause here for a little segment that I like to call What the Gram. Okay, so now this segment is a lot like, I don't know if, Paul, have you ever seen Hot Ones? Have you ever watched a Hot Ones interview?
No.
Fantastic. Great. So you have no idea what's coming. So what I've actually done is a little bit of a deep dive into your social media, Paul. And I've got some segments from your Instagram account that I would like for you to explain for me. Okay? Fantastic. All right. Paul, this first one here is this picture right here. Paul, this is it for those that are watching the podcast. I would like, Paul, for those of you watching the podcast, it is a picture of Paul sitting in one seat and a dog sitting in the other seat. Paul, I would like for you to explain what in the world is going on here.
So it's so funny because that's right there. My wife was very kind to let me turn my entire basement into a studio, right? So I've got, my little studio here where I do the stand-up and most of my podcasts, but, I decided I was like, I'm going to set up a wall, which it's not white anymore. It's got some cool, features on it now, where I wanted to bring people locally and do interviews and podcasts right there. And, so this was just clearly a hilarious way to basically say, hey, I'm going to start doing some in-person podcasts. And Rio was my first guest. So.
The dog was the first guest. That's perfect. Okay, this next one, this is awesome right here, man. This is actually a cool one because this is you on the Real Estate Disruptors podcast. And this is like a year ago, which is huge. One, because it was your, I guess, like second year in business and you're already on this podcast with Steve Trang that has like certain stipulations for being on the podcast. And he's probably the biggest real estate podcast that there is. So I'd love for you to even tell the story behind this and even your experience, man. That's cool.
Yeah, this is really, really fun to see this. Because there is a great story about this and a lot of imposter syndrome sitting right behind my eyes in this picture. When I started building this business and started realizing, I'm not playing my game. I did this through my business partner is the author of the book, Rigging the Game. I approached Steve in March of 2022. Jeez, time flies. That's not even that long ago. And this is how I got in touch with Steve. I had learned all this stuff that was just like making a massive impact on me. And what I realized was I saw Steve. I'd been listening to him for years on his podcast, and I just got on Facebook and I was like, messaged this guy I'd never spoken to in my life. I'm like, I need 15 minutes of your time. I have to show you some stuff. You won't regret it, right? He's like, who is this kid that thinks that he can just reach out to me like that? He got on a call with me. Fortunately, we got to sort of know each other. I was like, yeah, you need to pay me so I can show you some of this stuff. And he was like, wow, okay. He ended up deciding to do that, and he joined. He was in the first 10 to join Whale Club. And so we went through this process. He was like, again, when you see behind the curtain and you see some of the stuff you do, you start realizing, wow, this is like secret truth of the universe kind of stuff. We started working together, and through the process of like unwinding some of the things that I was doing in my business, before this picture, I had never posted anything in my life on social media. And I was like nervous as heck. And Steve was like, well, how about this? Why don't you get out here to Phoenix? We'll record a podcast, and that'll be your first go. And you can start then posting stuff on online or whatever. And I'm like terrified. And, he's like, well, it's like pushing, the friend that pushes you into the pool when you're not ready. But he's like, well, I'm going to push you in. And I'm so glad that he did, because this was like the beginning of me sort of opening up and saying, you know what, I kind of enjoy this. This was not so bad. I'm not actually that bad at it. And I started working at that point to do it. So I owe a lot to Steve. He's my business partner in Whale Club, and he means a lot to me. And this picture actually means a ton to me, because it was the beginning of my new chapter in my life.
That's awesome, man. It reminds me of this story, and I'm gonna stop sharing for just a second. It reminds me of this story of this billionaire, right? This billionaire invites a bunch of his friends out to his house. And when he invites them out to his house, he brings them all in the helicopter. He shows them his land. He's got acres and acres of farmland. He's got a couple of mansions on his farmland. He's got, cars. He's got a lake with a boat. He's got all these things. And he takes his friends around, and they're in awe. They're like, oh my gosh, this is absolutely incredible. I would love to live this lifestyle. And so then he takes them inside of his house. And inside of his house, there's this pool. And this pool has a bunch of alligators in it. And he looks at all of his friends and he says, if any of you could swim across to the other side of this pool, I will give you anything you want. Any of the stuff I have, any of the money you want, any of the things you want, I will give that to you. And everybody looked around and they're like, I really want these things, but I don't think it's worth it. And so they look around, and then all of a sudden, they hear a splash. And they looked over, and one of the guys was in the pool, swimming to the other side as fast as he possibly can. And there's alligators trying to reach after him, and he's swimming as fast as he can. He finally gets to the other side, and the guy looks up and he goes, oh my gosh, you actually do it. What do you want? And the guy looks up and he says, I want to know who the heck pushed me in this pool. And so the story of it is this guy made it across. He never thought he could make it across, but he could into something that seemed impossible because somebody pushed him in and he was able to do it. And so sometimes that's a very extreme version. That sometimes you just need that one person to push you in the pool. And here it seems like Steve was that one person for you. And now look what's happened. It's kind of crazy.
Well, and then what I found out is the alligators, they're just foam alligators. Like, they're not real. You were scared about this thing. You thought that was in there, but it's like, hey, the only way you're going to do it is if you get in the pool and you realize it's not as scary as you thought. So, yeah, that's just, you need those people in your life that are willing to push you in the pool sometimes.
Heck yeah, you do. Okay, and then here we have another one that I want to share with you that I want to ask about. This is you right here with the man, the myth, the legend, Hulk Hogan. I would love to know the story behind this one.
Man, yeah, that was cool. That was a cool experience. This was like last week? God, not long ago. And so I've been involved with
Who'd you see, baby?
A community for the last year and a half called Family Mastermind. And Family Mastermind is geared towards, more like social media influencers, people who have coaching programs or masterminds or things like this. And I got into this because as I was building my community, I wanted to get around people who had this level of success and had been doing this for a while. And so Matt Andrews he's become a close friend of mine, and this guy freaking knows how to bring a party. And he brought Hulk Hogan in as a speaker, and man, I got to listen to this guy. I mean, I don't know if you liked wrestling growing up. I did, but I was more like Stone Cold
Steve Austin. Let's go. Yeah, so the Stone Cold Stunner.
Yeah, dude. Well, and the Hulk's the man, no shame on that, but like he was a little before me. He was more like the 80s. I was born in 1990, so but to hear the story that this guy had to share, I'm a big proponent of playing your game. And I'm very attracted to people that do that unapologetically. And this is one of those guys. Like, you just hear his story. I think his name is Terry Bollea. And like to listen to the process of him becoming this persona and the process that he went through to get mentorship from Andre the Giant. And, he's talking about Sylvester Stallone and the stuff that he went through there. The 25 surgeries he had to have in the last 15 years. It's like most wrestlers are dead by now, and he's 70 years old, and how he's taken care of his body, prioritized his relationship with God and his wife, and just all these different things. It was really, truly an inspiration to hear someone who, from a completely different walk of life, playing his game and doing it unapologetically. So yeah, it was really, really cool to snap a quick picture with him.
Heck yeah, man. That's awesome. Sweet. I love that, man, because I love Stone Cold. I love all these guys. I also love the Hulk Hogan, man. He is a staple in wrestling. Okay, and then this last photo actually will probably start to transition us back into some of the questions. And the second part of the podcast, and we've talked so much in the beginning that it's probably going to be shorter than the first part. I would love to talk about just even more on the practical side, because you said... one of the things you said was you started 3 years ago, and now you're building things like this, man. I'd love to hear about this project a little bit, how you got started in it. This is your townhome project, and then even just kind of, this is exciting, man. This is really big stuff. This is not like small single-family fix and flips. This is a $10 million development, and so I know there was a process that goes along with that, and I'd love to kind of dive into that and hear a little bit more about it.
Relationships, man. It all comes back to that. So it started when I was in high school, and I baled hay for a family that I had no idea was sitting on probably 100 to $250 million in wealth, right? This family that they're farmers. It's always the farmers that have more money.
It is always the farmers. That is true.
Always the farmers, I learned. Good thing my wife's from Iowa, so I'm trying to meet more farmers. So I bought, so for 8-9 years, I was traveling to 2 cities a week. My first job out of college, first couple jobs, that was my career. And selling this, you're an AI guy. We called it machine learning back then. That's what I was selling, was machine learning. I was selling it to Amazon, United Airlines, and traveling 2 cities a week for a really long time. And then I met this girl, and it was like, man, I don't know if that's going to work. I want to be home more. So first step was I got to get out of this, frat house that I was basically in with a bunch of roommates. And she was like, I'm not coming over there anymore. So I bought a house. I didn't know anything about real estate, but I bought a house, and I got to know a neighbor who was a mortgage lender, and he starts teaching me a little bit about bigger pockets and hey, you can buy another house, stick tenants in that house, and you can do this over and over and over again. So I was like, really? So I bought a second house. This was a brand new townhome, like a block or 2 over from where I was living. And this was the most incredible townhome I'd seen. The price was incredible relative to the quality. And I actually got to know the 2 guys that built that townhome. Their names were Nate and Hassan. And I'm like, geez, tell me how these deals work. Started talking with them. And they're like, how much money are you making on this? This is crazy, right? And I started sort of realizing, wow, this is a game worth looking at and worth playing. And so I started asking myself, what do these guys need? What is it that I can do to add value? First of all, I didn't go up to them and say, how do I add value to you? You want to be valuable, go be valuable. Don't ask someone to tell you what you needed to do. Well, what I realized was that they were doing all these deals with their own cash. and they were fairly limited because they didn't know how to raise money. They also were looking for more off-market properties, and I was like, well, this is sales. This sounds a lot like sales. I think I can do this, right? So I started marketing off-market for deals and really just having a lot of conversations with people to raise capital. I got my first big deal with them, which was a pop top. For those who aren't familiar with that, you're taking a roof
When I had this question, what the heck is a pop top?
Yeah, so you're taking a very like standard brick ranch that was built in the 50s or 60s, where the basement is like really, really low. And we dig that basement down, we take the roof off, and we build a third story. So we did 2 of those, $2 million type products, really high-end stuff. And I got to sort of get a couple reps in with these guys. And so that led to, all right, well, Paul's bringing something to the table now. And we sold that last pop top in October of last year, and basically just sat around until February came. And then they came to me and they said, hey, we've got this project that popped up. I know you're starting to get pretty good at raising capital. You think you could get $2.75 million. If you can probably get into this deal with us, because they didn't have the cash to do it. And really, all 3 of us needed to sign on this debt so that we could, I'm not freaking worth $10 million. I'll tell you that right now, right? It takes some, a couple people to get the net worth needed to sign on that, but that's kind of how it happened. The first relationship started when I was 16 years old. My mom's been a attorney for this family for 30 years. I baled hay for them in high school. They knew me, they liked me, they trusted me, and I raised all that money from one lender. So we took that 2.75, we went out and got a 5.1-ish construction loan. So we're all in for, about 8 million, and we'll sell these for, the market's now probably showing us more like 10.5 million, but
nice.
That's how that deal worked. And again, my role in it was just to connect the capital. I like to say there's 3 sides to every big deal. And it's probably true for smaller deals, but I've noticed it with big deals. There's sourcing. How do you find the deal? That's one. How do you fund the deal, the debt and the equity? And then the third piece is who's going to build it? Who's going to operate it? Who's going to manage it? And if you can find those 3 sides, and sometimes the deal, one side's bigger than another, sometimes the triangle's small, sometimes it's big, but there's always those 3 sides. And I think that just understanding of where I fit on the triangle and how do I add value to people who may not have what I bring to the table. Those guys don't want to get up and podcast. They don't want to go to networks and fly across the country. They just know how to build stuff and they want to stay in their lane. And so part of it, I think, is also finding partners that there's a symbiotic relationship there. There's a complementary relationship. And again, back to like, what did I do really well? I put big deals together with big companies, and that's now what I'm doing on the real estate side. And we're just going to go deal by deal, and we'll just keep kind of rolling until it presents us with whatever's next. Maybe it is a fund, maybe it's just syndicating deal by deal, but right now let's just go continue to knock down good deals. And that's how it happened.
Nice, man. Yes, should do a fund. But also, so this is a syndication, right?
We didn't even syndicate it. Technically, by like a syndication terms, it is a syndication. We didn't register
because you only raised from one person, so it's not even a security.
Yeah, so exactly right. So there's a lot to go through with that because banks don't like mezzanine debt. They don't like a second position on something like this. So we had to get fairly creative to get them on the operating system or operating agreement and whatever. If you want to talk more about that, I can explain. But yeah, it's essentially a syndication, but not a registered with the SEC syndication.
That makes sense. Cool. Now, you mentioned one thing. There's 2 things I want to talk about. This first part, I think, was really important, very important, and I think also extremely undervalued in our day and age, just in general. But you mentioned the way that you got started was you were like, "Hey guys, I want to learn from you, whatever that looks like." And so, how important have mentorships been in kind of the growth? Because honestly, like 3 years is huge. I started 2.5 years ago. And so like how important to you has mentorships been in getting you to where you are? Because that's what it sounds like was really important in the beginning for you. And I may be wrong, but like,
No.
what was that been like for you?
I've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars in the last 3 years. Hundreds. Like, not just one, not just two. We're talking multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars to pay for the relationships that I needed to have in my life, the mentorship, the people that I want to get. We're playing. I'm not interested in playing a small game. I'm interested in playing a big game. And you want to play a big game, you got to get around people who also play big games. The best part about real estate is you can pay for your friends. And I don't mean that maliciously.
No, it's true.
But it's the
I
truth.
paid a lot of money to be your friend.
You can pay to get into the right rooms with the people who are also willing to pay to be in those rooms. I have a personal coach. I have Dan and Nick as mentors. I have Steve Trang as mentors. I'm in Family Mastermind. I'm in Collective Genius. I mean, most of the money that I've made and earned in the last couple of years has been to position myself for from now going forward, right? Like, I'm willing to pay and invest in that. And it's not necessarily, I bought a lot of courses. I bought a lot of stuff like that. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that's not something worth investing in, but what I am saying is it's the relationships, in my opinion, that are going to take you further than the strategy specific stuff. I would rather get to know the person that has the course than take the course, right? Because I believe that the actual relationship is where the value is, because I know how to extract that value without it. Again, some people are going to take that as, oh, you're just using these relationships. And it's like, well, if you see it that way, I don't think we're not going to get along, right? Because you've got to be valuable first to receive value.
That's for sure, man. Well, cool, man. As we land this plane, I would love to know, what is your definition of success? So as we kind of go out, as we kind of like a synopsis of everything we've talked about, as we kind of figure out what it looks like for you moving forward, as you've invested a ton of money into the future, as you've invested into relationships, as you've invested into the strength and the preservation of your marriage, what does success look like for you?
I would sum it all up to saying doing things I want to do with people I want to do it with. That changes constantly. And the people that come in and out of my life change constantly. Right now, I'm in the process of doing the reps, and I'm trying to align with people that give me energy, people that give me, it's just, I want to do fun stuff with people that I enjoy doing it with. And that's what success means to me. I don't need a ton of money in order to do that. It happens that money is a byproduct of doing that. But back to the whole finite and infinite game here. Let's just go create a game that can be won financially, because there's so much more than just the pursuit of money. I'm also not suggesting that with a lot of money, there's a lot of good I can do, right? But I'm going to prioritize for doing things that I enjoy, that give me energy, that allow me to make an impact on the relationships that I want. So I'll just sum it up as doing stuff I want to do with people I want to do it with.
Paul, I love that, man. And that is totally right, because what good is doing it if you don't enjoy doing it? And the best part of doing something is getting to enjoy doing it with the people around you. You all grow together. You all learn together. And they were your best friends in that season of life, which is cool, man. So, Paul, thank you so much for being on the show today. It means the absolute world that you are here. I've learned a lot from you. I've loved growing with you. I've loved just kind of seeing, just being encouraged by you, and just even growing a friendship with you, man. And so if you could leave anybody with any one thing, like let's say you're never on another podcast again, nobody ever hears you ever again, you have a couple minutes to talk about it. What's the thing that you want to leave the world with? Like, what would that be?
Get clarity on what success means to you. Get clarity on what it means to play your game, and then just go play it unapologetically, right? Like, that's what life is. It's getting closer to your definition of success. And it starts by defining what that means to you, right? And looking internally, as opposed to looking how everyone else defines success. You can build a business that's extremely successful on your terms. that's, I think, my message is like, you want the fastest path to success? First of all, define it. And then second of all, be willing to reject the common wisdom around what that means, right? And look to your own intuition and definition of success. And I help people get and implement frameworks to do that, right? So that's really what I'm passionate about. That's what my message is right? It's closer over more. It's getting clarity on what it means to play your game, and then just go play it. And life and business is really fun, and it should be.
Heck yeah, man. Thanks so much, man. Hey, where can people find you? Because, you know, of course, like we want people to go follow you, find you, learn from you, do all of those things. What's the best place for that?
Yeah, man. I'm a social media guy now, so go find me on Instagram, Paul Sparks Official, and check out what I'm doing on all these different ventures. And I talk a lot about how I view business and life, and I try to give people useful things that they can make use of in their life. So yeah, follow me there, Paul Sparks Official.
Nice, man. Thanks so much. Appreciate you, man.
Thanks, Devin. Appreciate you too, man.
Yep.